Hello, good morning, and good night, and welcome to DJ Crowns Plays. I'm DJ Crowns, and we're finally back with part 2 of this so-called Ultimate Bedrock Shops Guide. How ultimate can it be if I never finish it? Not that ultimate, I'll say. So today, because of the request from a couple subscribers and commenters on the last video, we're back with a part 2 for all you bedrockers out there. I know I've been gone for some time, and some of you may have lost interest by now, but I do still really want to be making videos. Without getting into too much detail, I've been in a bad way for a long time, and I'm trying to take control of my life, which is why I haven't uploaded in some time. But things are starting to get better, and I plan to start uploading more frequently again. Maybe not as frequent as I originally planned, but I'll do what I can when I can. But life's gotta come first, you know? I hope you all understand. Anyways, so just as a reminder, this guide is covering 4 different automated redstone shops that I created for Bedrock based off of Java Redstoner's RexxStone and T2 Studios design. And if you remember, in the last video, we covered the shop that can handle a multiple item payment to give a multiple item payout. We went into depth explaining the build for anyone who is interested in how it works, and also gave a few extra tips at the end of the video for moving payment into external storages and stacking modules next to each other. If you haven't seen it and are interested, it will be in the description below, and I'll also link RexxStone and T2 Studios video below again for anyone who's interested in checking their video out. So anyways, today we are going to be covering the shop that can handle a multiple item payment to give a single item payout, which is a super useful shop for non-stackable items like tools or armor or even shulker boxes full of items. And why do we need this shop and can't just use the last one that I made? It's simply because pistons take 2 game ticks to extend, and also redstone torches take 2 game ticks to turn off or on, which with both on our hopper clock, that equates to 2 redstone ticks a delay, and that's why 2 items come out. Therefore, the previous shop cannot do a single item payout. If you try, you will end up getting 2 items for what is supposed to be a single item payout. So, the shop we are covering in today's tutorial fixes that issue. And as you can see, if you saw or built the build from the last video, the shop is extremely similar to the original, with basically just one hopper clock removed, a couple things moved around to make the build a bit cleaner, and it keeps all the exact same features as the original, such as sound effects, processing multiple payments, and the out of stock shop lock. So let's give a quick explanation of how everything works and get on with this tutorial, shall we? At the front of the shop, you should notice the item frame, a redstone lamp, a barrel underneath it, and a barrel 2 spaces down from that. The item frame is simply to display what is being sold and how much each purchase costs. The redstone lamp is there to let the customer know if the shop has stock or not, and if the redstone lamp is on, it has stock, and if it's off, it has nothing. The barrel underneath the redstone lamp is where customers will place their payment and also receive the items they purchase. Whenever a customer makes a purchase, they must place the correct payment into the barrel, and once they do, the system will place the item they purchased into the barrel and at the same time lock the shop from making any more purchases until the system fully resets. And as soon as it does reset, it will begin processing the next payment automatically, as you can see there. Meaning, you can make multiple purchases whenever you want and the system will never break. The barrel 2 spaces down from that is our payment collection barrel, and this is where the payment item goes to be collected by the shop owner. The hopper underneath the barrel and redstone lamp is our item filter hopper that determines what item you want the payment to be. And in this hopper, you can see we have 4 swords, or non-stackable items, and then some diamonds. The payment item can be anything you want, and it doesn't have to be 54 items like you see here. Once you set the shop up a bit more, the number of items left in this hopper will change depending on what you set your payment to be. The lime green circuit is also part of the item filter, and is also what activates everything in the shop. The barrel attached to the lime green circuit here has 1 sword in it, with a comparator and repeater pointing into the side of another comparator to basically only allow a signal strength of 15 to pass through, which means the item filter has to completely fill up before it activates, and that is how we detect our payment. The light blue circuit and hopper clock on the right side is what determines how many items you want your payment to be, plays our sound effects, and dispenses the single item that the player purchased into the barrel below the redstone lamp. Just do not place more than 63 items here. If you do, your item filter will drain completely and the system will break. Next, the purple circuit is what powers our stock dropper to dispense a single item after payment has been accepted by the system. And this dropper is where the shop owner will place the shop stock to be purchased by the customer. The blue circuit wrapping around the build is what locks the shop whenever it's in use, so another purchase can't be made until the system fully resets. And this is to ensure you always receive the correct payment and customers always receive the correct payout. The yellow circuit is what releases our payment item from the item filter hopper to the payment collection barrel, plays our sound effects, and powers the purple circuit to dispense the item purchased by the customer. And finally, the orange circuit. And this is what locks the shop whenever it runs out of stock so that no one can try to make a purchase and have their diamonds stolen when there's nothing to pay for. So with all that out of the way, hopefully you all understand how to use and configure the shop to your preference, and hopefully it wasn't too boring. Now, let's get on to the tutorial for this thing.
For this build, you will need 38 solid blocks of any type like smooth stone or cobblestone, 4 glass blocks, 3 stairs, 1 slab, 17 redstone desks, 7 hoppers, 6 comparators, 5 repeaters, 5 redstone torches, 5 swords or non-stackable items, 4 chests, 3 barrels, 2 observers, 2 pistons, 1 redstone lamp, 1 target block, 1 block of redstone, 1 dropper, 1 wax copper bulb, 1 item frame, 1 block of emerald, and 1 note block. And if you don't want sound effects, bring 1 more solid block in place of the emerald block and note block.
So, as you can see, the build takes up an 8 by 3 by 9 block area, and the floor sits 4 blocks off the ground in line with the 5th block up, or the diamond block here. All the redstone fits inside the quartz block areas, and the gold and netherite blocks are laid out so you can easily follow along and get the proper spacing for the build. And once again, your diamond block represents your floor level. So with that out of the way, let's begin. And once again, I'm going to ask you to please pay attention, as one missed block or item could mess up your whole system. And also, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be using colored wool blocks so you can all more easily follow along. But you don't have to use wool blocks and can use any solid blocks in their place. So first, we are going to come to the bottom left corner of our 8 by 3 area and pillar up by 5 temporary blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Place another temporary block coming out to the front from it, a barrel on top of the 5 block high pillar facing us, a redstone lamp on top of that barrel, and then break the block you're standing on to drop back down. Next, at the right of our 5 block high pillar of temporary blocks, we're going to place 2 more temporary blocks, 1 space to the right and 1 space below our barrel, just like this, and 1 more temporary block below that, giving us this weird P shape. We then are going to remove the 5 block high pillar of temporary blocks, but leave the 2 on the side. And then from the left side, place 2 hoppers underneath our barrel and pointing into the 2 temporary blocks, just like this. Next, we're going to break the bottom temporary block and place a barrel in place of that block. Pillar up by 4 temporary blocks in front of that barrel. Break the temporary block on top of the barrel. Place 2 more blocks coming off the back side of that barrel with a 3rd temporary block. Place a barrel on top of that temporary block. Open it up and place 1 sword or non-stackable item into it. Place a comparator coming off of that barrel with a repeater in front of the comparator. Crouch and jump and place a comparator facing to the right side of the build. And then remove the temporary blocks underneath the barrel with the sword in it, and the pillar of temporary blocks at the front of the build. And once you do that, you should have something looking like this. Next, we are going to come to the front right side of the barrel with the comparator on it. Crouch, look up at the side of the barrel, and place an observer facing upwards with the arrow or redstone dot pointing down. Next, we're going to place a block underneath our observer, a redstone torch on the back side of that block, a block on top of the redstone torch, pillar up by 3 temporary blocks beside the observer, place a redstone dust on top of the observer's face, remove the temporary blocks, and bam, with that our whole activation circuit is done right there. But now we got to get the hopper clock in, and everything else will come after. So now we are going to come behind the observer where we placed the redstone torch, place a block coming off of it, a temporary block directly on the ground behind it, a block on top of the temporary block, count 3 spaces further behind the temporary block, 1, 2, 3, place another temporary block, pillar up with a block on top of the temporary block, place one more temporary block coming off the back of it, a block on top of that, and remove the temporary blocks. And once you do that, you should have something looking like this. Next, we're going to place a temporary block on the ground and in between the line of blocks we just made. Hop on top of that block and place a comparator facing into the block with the redstone torch behind it. Turn around and place another comparator facing into the other elevated block right there. Just like that. And we then are going to climb up the staircase we have and place a redstone dust on top of both the blocks the comparators are pointing into. Just like this. And now we're going to place a piston coming off the powered redstone dust at the front of the build facing to the back of the build. And then we're going to place another piston coming off the unpowered redstone dust at the back of the build facing to the front of the build. Just like that. Next, we're going to place a redstone block between the 2 piston heads and then 2 hoppers below that pointing into each other. Just like this. And once you do that, you can remove the temporary block we used the staircase up. And also, now you can add any amount of items in these hoppers to determine how much you want the payment to be, just as long as it's not more than 63 items. So for the tutorial's purpose, I will place 10 cobblestone, and then later on when we activate the shop for the first time, it will automatically regulate the shop's price based on the amount of items in these hoppers. So next, we need to finish the item filter and have a way to lock it. So, swinging around the left side of the build, we are going to crouch and place a block coming off the hopper with the piston arm extended above it, a block coming off the block with the comparator on it, a block coming off the block that the comparator is pointed into, and a redstone torch on the front side of that block. Just like that. Next, we're going to place a temporary block on the side of the block with the other redstone torch on it, a block below that, a target block on the side of our temporary block below our item filter hopper, and then remove the temporary block in the middle. We then are going to place 1 redstone dust on the block beside the target block, and then on the left side at the 5th block back, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pillar up by 2 temporary blocks, 1, 2, place a repeater pointing into the block with the redstone torch on it, a redstone dust on the block behind that repeater, and then remove the 2 temporary blocks. Just like that. And now is when you can add in your item filter and sound effects to test the payment system, and so far, the build should be looking like this. Next, we're going to add in our note block and sound effects. So, coming back around the front left side of the build, we're going to count 6 spaces forward, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 to the right, place a temporary block, a block on top of it, a temporary block next to the block with the comparator on it, an emerald block on that, our note block on top of that, a repeater pointing into the emerald block, and then right click or tap left trigger 19 times on the note block. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And then remove the temporary blocks underneath the emerald block and the block that the repeater is on. If you don't want sound effects though, you can simply remove the note block and emerald block and replace it with a different solid block. It will be needed for later as part of the shop's locking mechanism. And now we need to set the item filter. So first, we need to have 4 non-stackable items and a stack plus 1 of whatever you want your payment item to be. We then are going to come over to the front of the build, access the hopper above our target block, and place one of our payment item into this hopper. And once you do that, we're going to access the hopper directly above that and place our 4 non-stackable items in the last 4 slots of this hopper. With our stack of payment item in the first slot. And once you do this, the payment system should activate and automatically regulate the shop's price if you have built everything correctly so far. So test it out a couple times and make sure you haven't missed anything. Moving on, we now need to set up the payout circuit. So once again, coming to the front left side of the build, we're going to count 5 spaces back this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pillar up by 3 temporary blocks. 1, 2, 3. Jump on the extended piston arm. Place a block on top of our 3-block high pillar of temporary blocks. A redstone torch on top of that block. A block on top of that redstone torch. Another torch on the front side of that block. And another block on top of that torch, just like that. Next, we're going to crouch and place a hopper pointing into the barrel at the front of the build, a comparator on top of that pointed into the redstone lamp, with a dropper on the front of the block above the unpowered redstone torch facing to the front of the build, just like that. Next, we're going to climb up the redstone torch tower, crouch, and place a glass block on the right side of the comparator pointed into the redstone lamp, another glass block on top of the comparator, a hopper pointed into the left side of the dropper, a double chest on top of the hopper coming out to the front of the build, another hopper pointed into the back side of the chest, and another double chest on top of that hopper just like this. And doing this, you can literally have as much storage as you want by just adding more chests and hoppers going upward the same way I just showed you. Now all that's left is to add in the circuitry that locks the shop whenever it's in use, which allows it to reliably process multiple payments, and then finally add in the out-of-stock shop lock so that no one can make a purchase if there's nothing to pay for, as well as just cover it up a bit. So next, we're going to drop back down and remove the 3-block high pillar of temporary blocks we left at the left side of the build. And then we're going to swing back around the front right side of the build, and on the 3rd block back, so 1, 2, 3, place a block, count 1 space forward and 1 space to the left, place another block, place a repeater on top of that block, crouch, place a block coming off the back side of that repeater, and a redstone dust on the block beside that. Next, we're going to come over to the left side of the build, crouch, and place a block coming off the repeater, a block on the ground behind that, a temporary block behind that, a block on top of the temporary block, a repeater pointed into the block on the temporary block, and remove the temporary block, just like that. We then are going to climb up on top of the block the repeater is pointed into, crouch, place a block on top of the repeater, an upper half slab coming off the hopper directly underneath our item filter hopper, and then 3 redstone dust running down it just like this. We then are going to drop back down and place 3 blocks coming off the block with the redstone dust on it, so 1, 2, 3. Pillar up with 2 temporary blocks on the end, 1, 2, with a 3rd block on top. Place a glass block next to the note block, a block on top of the redstone dust connected to our piston, a glass block on top of our piston, and redstone dust running all the way down connecting to the other redstone dust. And finally, remove the 2 temporary blocks, just like this. And with that, finally, all we have left to do is add in the out-of-stock shop lock. So to do that, first we need to come over to the right side of the build and pillar up with 3 temporary blocks next to our extended piston arm. So 1, 2, 3. Hop up on the piston, crouch, place an observer looking at the left side of the comparator pointed into the redstone lamp. We then are going to place a block behind it, a wax copper bulb on the back side of that block, a temporary block on the back side of that copper bulb, a block underneath the temporary block, a block coming out to the back from that, remove the temporary block, place a comparator coming off of the copper bulb, a redstone dust on the block behind that, and a redstone torch on the back side of that block. And finally, remove the temporary blocks we left at the side of the build. And bam! With that, the out of stock shop block is now all set, and you can fill up your shop stock whenever you wish. Now all we have left to do is cover it up a bit. So, coming back to the front of the build, we're going to pillar up by 6 temporary blocks in the middle of the build. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Place 3 blocks on top of the redstone lamp and to the right side of the build. 1, 2, 3. 3 stairs on top of those. 1, 2, 3. 4 blocks underneath just like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Break the top block of the pillar of temporary blocks you're standing on. Place an item frame in the center top block of the shop space with your named item, in the item frame to display what is being sold and how much each purchase costs. And finally, remove the pillar of temporary blocks to drop back down. And bam! With that, the redstone shop that can handle a multiple item payment to give a single item payout is now complete, and you can test it out and decorate it however you like. This time though, I'm not going to bother going through the whole process of testing it out fully and showing the extra tips I gave in the last video. But just note that it works exactly the same as the last, and whenever a customer makes a purchase, they must wait until the system fully resets before it will start processing the next payment. Also, moving the payment to an external storage is the exact same as the previous build. If you want to see a more detailed clip of testing it out and the tips I gave afterwards, check out the previous video in the guide. But as of 26.0, all the shops are still working and 100% flawless. But anyways guys, that's it for today's tutorial, and in the next tutorial we will cover the shop that handles a single item payment to give a multiple item payout. So stick around for that one. And lastly, I put a lot of work into this video, so hopefully you all enjoyed it, and hopefully it was easy enough to follow along and understand. Please like, comment, and give me any suggestions you may have. And until next time, DJ Crowns away!